Great. Thank you, everyone, and welcome to the phase 2 kickoff meeting of the Biogenic Carbon Project. I will be providing some context, but to start with, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Archana, and I am the coordinator of the Life Cycle Initiative. Maybe we have interacted in past as part of the phase 1 project. If not, as I mentioned, coordinating all the projects of the Secretariat of the Life Cycle Initiative, including the project on biogenic carbon. And today we have with us our project lead, Adam Robertson, who is specifically helping us finalize the guidelines through a consensus-based process. And before starting the meeting, I would like to invite Adam to quickly come and introduce himself. Adam?
Sure. Thanks, Archana. Yeah, my name is Adam Robertson. I'm coming to you from Calgary, Alberta, in Western Canada. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. As Archana mentioned, I've joined late last year as a temporary staff member to the UNEP Lifecycle Initiative with a specific focus on working on the Biogenic Carbon Project. So I'll be working on the team with Archana and Jan and Lawrence as well at the UNEP Lifecycle Initiative. My background is I'm a civil engineer by training. But I've done lots of work around life cycle assessment, specifically in the building construction sector, around whole building life cycle assessment and looking primarily at wood products and wood-based building products, long-lived harvested wood products. So, yeah, I've had experience over the last 10 or 12 years working in standards development processes, specifically in the ISO standards development process around sustainability in buildings, as well as GHG accounting. And currently, I'm involved in the update of ISO 14067, which is the standard on carbon footprint of products. So we'll talk maybe a touch about that later as we go on today. But thanks, Archana, for the introduction, and looking forward to meeting all of you along the way, along our journey here with phase 2 of the project. Thanks.
Thanks, Adam. So again, welcome everyone. Just as we start the meeting, a few housekeeping announcements. As I was mentioning at the beginning of the call, all of you will have an opportunity to ask questions during the specific question and answer segments. There are 2 Q&A segments that we have planned in the agenda. Till then, I would request everyone to keep their microphones as well as their cameras off. On the next slide, we have, as you can see, a very packed schedule and agenda for this meeting. As you can see, we are going to talk about a little bit about the project background and history, and more specifically focusing on the phase 2 objectives, how we are going to plan and organize consultations and consensus building activities around phase 2. You will hear from us more as we progress with this meeting. Just to set, because I know most of you were involved in phase 1 of the project, but then we received additional expression of interest also during last year when the project had taken a pause. So let me provide you a brief context and background and just refresh memories of those who were engaging in the phase 1 activities as well. The overall objective of the project is to develop harmonized, scientifically sound, and stakeholder-informed recommendations to improve biogenic carbon accounting in LCA. With this goal, the project was kicked off in March 2024, where during 2024, from March up until December, early January 2025, there were, through the 4 working groups, as you can see on this slide, there were extensive consultations which resulted in development of an internal document, drawing essentially on the insights from the 2 hybrid workshops, the workshop that happened in July as well as in October. and resulted in a paper that outlines science-based options for modeling biogenic carbon in LCA. And it also reflects both areas of consensus and diverse stakeholder perspectives. The document was shared. Over 120 participants across 4 working groups participated and contributed to this document preparation. Then in early 2024, the project had to take a pause for various circumstances. And we have again relaunched the project, and the phase two has started since November 2025. We were working in the background, analyzing a couple of things before we wanted to reach out to the expert group who has contributed and who has shown interest in contributing to this project. Now I'm going to invite Adam to take us through the phase two objectives and our plan of action for this year. Adam, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Archana. So next slide, please. So for the phase two of the project, we're kicking off today with the beginning of the phase two, and really we have a different list of objectives here for phase two, building on what we've already accomplished and delivered under the phase one of the project. So really, the first aspect that they're looking at is we're gathering, reviewing, synthesizing, analyzing all of the outputs that came from phase one of the project. So if many of you will remember, if you're involved there, as Archana mentioned, there were 4 working groups that were active under phase one of the project, and each of those working groups was tasked with slightly different subject area topic from associated with biogenic carbon accounting in LCA. And what came out of that was a progress report from the phase one activities. And so that is one aspect, one deliverable from phase one that we will be reviewing and that we will be considering during the development of phase two. We do have a final version of that progress report. So there was a commenting period that occurred. So there was a draft of the progress report. And then there were many, many comments from experts like yourselves that were submitted on that progress report, so over 600 comments. And those comments were then reviewed by the previous implementing partner, and they were integrated. Some of them were integrated into the final version of the progress report. So that final phase one progress report is going to be circulated to all of yourselves, all of the people that have expressed interest in being involved in phase two of the project, and some as well. There is this list of extensive comments that were received during the development of the phase one progress report. And what we're doing with those is we're analyzing all of the comments, and we're attempting to synthesize and summarize aspects of the comments that are not considered or included in the progress report. So we're taking this list of 600 comments and creating sort of a summary and synthesis of the aspects that are not part of the progress report. And that is under development right now. And we're intending, again, to circulate that list or that summary of comments from the phase one progress report to all of yourselves interested in the phase two of the project. As well, we did receive lots of information about individuals that registered for phase one and their details. And so all of that information is being transferred over to the phase two as well. But we do obviously allow for additional experts to register their interest and participate in phase two as well too. The other objective, the second bullet down that we see here, is the re-engagement plan for the stakeholders and the technical experts. So really, we're putting a lot of thought into how we are going to collect feedback and contributions from experts, technical experts like yourselves, and we're working on finalizing a comment submission and discussion and resolution and consensus building process to collect all of this technical feedback, discuss it, and then integrate it within the phase two guidance and recommendations document. So really, the overall goal of phase two is to develop this consensus-based recommendations and guidance document around biogenic carbon accounting in LCA. So when we get to a point, we're thinking probably late this year, early next year, where we have a mature version of the phase two guidance and recommendations document. At that point, we're intending to actually pilot test or road test the guidance and recommendations with different organizations. And so what we're trying to do right now is think about that a little bit beforehand. We're trying to engage with organizations that are interested in pilot testing and road testing these guidelines. And, and hopefully have those organizations participate in the development of the phase two document that they're also going to be road testing at a later point in time. But the road testing is intended to come later in the process when the document is more mature. And then the final objective that you see here, the last bullet point there is the finalization and the dissemination of this information. So how are we going to, we're going to publish this, it's going to be publicly available through the UNEP website, and then how are we going to disseminate this information through webinars, presentations, conferences, through the other networks as well, international networks. The intention is that this has an international reach and that it's applicable across the globe for LCA practitioners that are dealing with biogenic carbon accounting. So let's go to the next slide, please. There, thank you, Yen. And so right now, what we're showing here is just a bit of the composition of what we had from the phase one of the project. And this is being updated as we have new individuals and stakeholders coming on board and expressing interest in joining for the phase two of the project. So you can see up on the top left here, this is the regional breakdown. So we have a significant amount of participation from the European community. We also have a significant amount of participation from the North American community as well. What we are trying to do is we're actually trying to engage more participation and stakeholders from developing countries, from Africa and Asian countries. And so we've gone through a bit of an outreach and networking exercise over the last little while to reach out to organizations associated with UNEP, like WBC SD, the World Business Council on Sustainable Development, to try to tap into their network and to try to encourage and reach other experts in these developing countries and encourage them to join onto the project and participate in the development of phase two as well. So that's one of our goals, is to increase participation, and that's one of the mandates of UNEP is to have participation from all different stakeholders around the world. If you look at the next one on the top on the right here, we can see the breakdown of the different types of constituencies that have been participating in stake one in phase one of the project. So we have some, a good portion from industry, a good portion from the science academic community, and a good portion from consulting, some government, as well as some NGO participation too. And then at the bottom, You can see that we have different sectors that are participating, different product sectors or industry sectors that have been participating in phase one. And we can see that there's significant participation from what we're calling across sector. So these are organizations that are dealing with multiple product sectors, and we also have significant participation from the forest and the wood product sector, as well as agriculture and livestock as well too. So the goal again is to have a wide representation of stakeholders from all different product sectors and industry sectors participating in the project. We have noted that we do have a lack of participation in product sectors such as personal care products, apparel, footwear, textiles, as well as algae as well too. So we're looking obviously for when we think about the pilot testing, we want to have different product sectors pilot testing the guidance and the recommendations to ensure that they're fitting and applicable across multiple product sectors. So let's go to the next slide there. Thanks, Jan. So the phase two scope of work, um, really there's several different steps that we're looking at here and that we're going to go through on our journey here. So the first one is the reviewing of the phase one output. So really we're going to take everything that we've developed in phase one, and we're going to try to integrate those aspects that we talked about and the feedback that we received in phase one into the phase two guidance and recommendations document. So really, phase one is attempting to identify the key issues, concerns, and potential pathways or potential solutions associated with those issues and concerns and aspects of biogenic carbon accounting in LCA. And as I mentioned, everybody will receive a copy of that final phase one progress report, as well as the comment summary that we're creating as well too. The second item here, developing the initial draft recommendations. So really the first step is to develop an outline, so kind of a skeleton outline of what this document, this guidance and recommendations phase two document might look like. So what are all the different topic areas? What are all the different sections of this document? And what is the potential content that we're going to include in each of those sections? So we're working we're working to develop that sort of in the next few weeks, and then attempting to circulate that through the technical advisory committee for their feedback, as well as then onwards to yourselves as an expert group for your feedback through our comment submission process and discussion. And so all you'll receive a working draft one, which will be an outline of a draft outline of the document. You then are able to submit comments, written comments, justifications for your comments, suggested changes to the document. We're going to compile all of those comments, recirculate them back to the experts as sort of a large format of all the comments together. And then we're going to have meetings, probably several meetings, virtual meetings to discuss and resolve those comments together as a group. So this is sort of coming into the third point here, facilitating engagement of the stakeholders and technical experts. So really, the way that you, as the technical experts and the stakeholders, are going to engage is through reviewing documents that are being circulated from the UNEP team, and then developing comments or suggested changes to those documents. So writing out your changes, writing out your comments, submitting those, and then participating in meetings, group meetings, where we're going to discuss the comments and we're going to resolve them as a group through consensus discussions. Um, The fourth bullet that we have down there is revise and refine the recommendations through an iterative and consensus-based process. So uh, it's expected that we're going to have several rounds of commenting and several different iterations of this document as it progresses and as it matures. It won't just be one instance that you'll be able to participate and provide feedback, but there will be several iterations to the document. So we'll have sort of a first working draft that's a skeleton outline. We'll have a commenting process. We will discuss and revise the resolve the comments and then revise the document. We'll have then a second iteration whereby people can again submit additional comments on the second working draft, and then we will have again meetings to discuss and resolve those comments, go back and revise the document as well. Um, we 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 also are expecting that we will during the pilot testing phase at the end of the end of the project, that the pilot testers will be able to submit again their feedback and comments back to us, and then we'll be able to revise the document based on the pilot testing results as well too. So as I mentioned, yeah, we're again right now trying to engage different product sectors that are involved in LCA studies. Can be, different types of studies, could be, product-based studies, product level studies, could be studies for, sort of future decision making, different types of goals and scope of those studies. But we're right now we're trying to really um, involve different product sectors that potentially would be interested in doing the pilot testing as we move through the development process. And from all the different product sectors, but we're thinking of forestry and wood products, bioenergy, agriculture, livestock, chemical, pharmaceuticals, personal care, packaging, apparel, textiles, and algae as well too. Um, and really, we're intending during the pilot testing phase to develop sort of requirements or protocols for the pilot testers so that we have sort of a consistent approach to how the pilot testing is being undertaken. And really, we're trying to understand if the guidelines are actually practically applicable, are they clear, are they usable, are they effective, and taking that feedback from the pilot testers and revising the document accordingly based on the feedback. And then the final one, as I had mentioned previously, is just the finalization, dissemination of this information in the future once it's all completed. So we'll switch to the next slide there. Thanks. Appreciate that, Yen. So what we've done here is we've developed a timeline for our work program up until May of this year, sort of late May, early June of this year. And we're calling this kind of step one of the phase two development. So as you can see here, we have our kickoff meeting that's occurring now in late January. The next event that's going to occur and that you should expect to receive from UNEP is distribution of what we're calling a phase two project information document. And so within this document, there's going to be sort of a written summary of a lot of the things that we talked about today in the meeting, kind of a brief overview of the scope of the project, some of the developments that happened in the phase one of the project. It's going to be a detailed breakdown of the engagement process, so the consensus process, the comment submission process, the comment resolution process, as well as the governance structure of the project, and some information on the pilot testing as well. So really, this phase two document is all-encompassing information around the second phase of the project. And so you'll expect to receive that early next month, and as well as a comment submission template. So we're working on developing a standardized template that you can use to submit your comments on the working draft documents of the phase two. And again, all of those comment submission templates will be compiled together, and then they'll be reviewed and discussed in a group setting, and resolved together as a group. And so those documents are coming in early next month. As well, what we're working on is a analysis of the phase one findings. So really, that what that means is the progress report. So this phase one, the final version of the phase one progress report, will be distributed in the same format that it was received from the previous implementing partner of the project, the University of Bath. And then the summary of the comments as well will be distributed to yourselves sometime next in the middle of the next month. The next step that we have is to actually, um, develop and then distribute the first working draft of the phase two guidance and recommendations document. So that's the fourth row down that you see in the chart here. So really, the first working draft is, as I mentioned, it's a skeleton outline. So really, it just is going to include all of the different sections, the organization of the sections of the paper, of the guidance and recommendations document, as well as maybe some brief information, point form information about what might be included in each of those different sections. And expecting to receive that document, the working draft one, late next month, early in March. And we're then going to provide a period of time, probably in the range of 2 to 3 weeks time, whereby experts are able to review the working draft one and develop their comments on this common commenting template, and then submit those comments back to us at the UNEP team to compile them. And once we have all of the comments received from yourselves and the comment period closes, we're going to recirculate all those comments back to everybody as a sort of a compilation, and then we'll have meetings to discuss the comments and resolve the comments together. So we're expecting those virtual meetings to discuss the working draft one comments late in March, early in April time period. And the expectation is that, we would have meetings that would last maybe 2 hours in length, but we would probably have to have several virtual meetings to resolve the comments, depending on the volume of comments that are received. I'm expecting that there will be a lot of comments that are coming in, just because we do have a lot of interest. We had almost 300 people register for the meeting today. So that tells me that there's good interest in understanding the project, and participating, hopefully participating as well in the phase two. So yeah, these virtual meetings to discuss the working draft one comments expected late March, early April. And then after we finish resolving all the working draft one comments, then we're going to go away for a couple weeks and take some time to actually develop content language based on the comment resolutions, um, develop language and input that draft language into the phase two document, and that will then become the second iteration, which is the working draft two, and that will be expected to be distributed to experts for their review and feedback in late April, early May time period. And so you'll have probably more, I think we're going to allocate more time to review the working draft two, just because it's going to be a more extensive document than the first working draft, which is just sort of a skeleton. So we're thinking probably 1 month, a time period to review and provide comments on the working draft two, and that would be during the month of May. And then in June, we'll compile the comments. We'll submit. We'll recirculate them back to all the experts. And then the expectation is that we're going to have a virtual, potentially physical meeting in June at some point to resolve the comments on the working draft too. And again, all this depends on what are the volume of comments that we receive? What are the type of comments that we receive? Are they quite challenging to discuss? And so we need to think about how we're going to structure the meetings based on the feedback that we're receiving from yourselves as well too. So the at the very bottom there, we see the final one, identify organizations for pilot testing. So this is, we're starting now today, and we've already started trying to identify organizations for pilot testing. So if your organization is interested in participating in the pilot test exercise and interested in participating in the development, please let us know. We do want to sort of have the commitment of those pilot testers as early as possible in the process. So this again is a draft schedule right now, and again we have a timeline that only goes up to May 2026. Obviously, there's activities that are going to occur beyond May and June 2026. We haven't mapped those out to this level of detail yet, but the expectation is that we would likely have another iteration of the document beyond May 2026, and then we would as well have the pilot testing protocols being developed, the pilot testers being identified. And then once the document gets to a state that it's quite mature, so probably late in 2026 year, early next year, then we would engage and start the pilot testing at that point in time, and then bring that feedback back into the revision of the document once the pilot testing was finished. So I'm gonna just we're gonna pause at this point in time. So as Archana mentioned, we've allocated a couple of instances during the presentation where we are going to take questions. And so right now I've tried to outline and map out the work plan for the scope and the objectives and the work plan from now until May and June of 2026. And so if you have questions on the work plan that we just talked about, we can take those questions now, and I'll sort of go through the chat. You can put your hand up if you'd like to ask, but there might be a couple in the chat, maybe if as well too. But feel free to raise your hand, and we can chat about any questions you have with respect to the phase two objectives and the work plan and the timeline. So I think I see one question here from Madhvi. Um, so Madhvi, you had a question here. The LCA Biogenic Carbon working draft in terms of what specific contributions or reviews are expected from Global South participants for this document. Um, so Madhvi, my understanding is there's not anything that is different or particular related to the contributions from participants that are from the Global South. What we are trying to do right now is we're trying to engage and have more active participation from the Global South and the developing countries. So, um, you and colleagues and stakeholders from developing countries are encouraged to participate in the comment submission and resolution and process and the meetings. So, yeah, the answer to your question really is there's nothing different that we're asking for from anyone from different parts of the world. That's the sort of the short answer of it. The next question I had here was from Hub Kiesers. Is the focus of the pilot you're looking for on construction products or much broader? So yeah, Hub, the focus of the pilot is all different industry sectors. So we're what we're hoping to have is we're hoping to have participation from pilot testing organizations from multiple product sectors that are involved in some way, shape, or form in LCA and involved in bio-based industries, bio-based products, bioenergy systems. So in an ideal world, we would have a really a large differentiation of types of product sectors and industry sectors identified and participating in the pilot testing exercise. Next question I see down here is from Annette. How will the working draft one be developed? Will Adam draft it based on phase one, etc.? Yes, the answer to your question is I will be the primary drafter of the phase one of the working draft one document. And so the intent is to consider all of the outputs that came from phase one, so the progress report, as well as all the comments that were received. In addition, we're intending to at least take into consideration other related initiatives that are happening around the world associated with biogenic carbon accounting in LCA. And so, as well as some of the outputs from the working groups. So, for instance, I was the convener of working group 4 in the phase 1 of the project, and we developed really a spreadsheet that had a mapping exercise where we tried to map all of the existing standards that had some aspects related to biogenic carbon accounting in LCA. We tried to map that over top of all the subjects and the topics that were discussed in the other working groups. So taking things like that that came out of the phase one as well, and trying to again develop a sort of a skeleton outline of what the recommendations and guidance document would look like that will be that will turn into the working draft one, and that will be then reviewed and commented on by the experts. Um, Furiel Malat, can graduates also participate in the project? I don't think we have any necessarily restriction. So yeah, I think if you have interest and you have a background, then it's helpful to have you participating in the project. Um, Z, Yufeng Zhang, I think hopefully I've answered your question about the pilot projects as well. So, yeah, I don't see any more questions in the chat unless I unless I missed some, or Chana, let me know, or Jan, let me know if I missed any that are from above. Um, before we go, Yuki, I see your hand up. Please go ahead, Yuki.
Yes, thank you, Adam. My question is regarding the working group two that dealt with end of life, reuse and recycling. And we kind of identified the issues but did not propose uh, any solutions for those. So, meaning that we are still far from a moment that we could put recommendations to paper. And so, would it be possible to schedule some discussion sessions rather than only for written comments regarding that topic? Because I think we need to mature the discussion a little bit more before we start drafting recommendations.
Mhm. Yeah, no, thanks, Yuki, and thanks for your participation and leadership in the phase one of the project as well. So, yeah, the idea is that the maturity of the discussions around things like end of life approaches is expected to develop during these comment discussion a group discussion and resolution sessions. So uh, my my thinking right now is that there's not necessarily going to be proposals in the working draft one for specific end of life approaches necessarily, but that as we go through as experts submit comments on the working draft one, that we would be able to engage more fully in those discussions. So, the intent of the phase one of the project was to attempt to really understand each other, understand the issues, and understand each other's perspective. We didn't have a mandate necessarily in working in phase one to come up with specific recommendations, but now our mandate has changed. In phase two, we do have a mandate to develop recommendations and guidance. So we're going to have to sort of engage with that discussion and that challenge. And so I'm attempting to sort of put something down as a starting point. But as we go through this iterative development process, that's how we're going to sort of tease out and understand the different perspectives a little bit better, I think. So hopefully that helps a bit. But yeah, I agree with you. There needs to be more discussion on some of these aspects. But my intent is that understanding is going to come as we go through the document development and the comment discussion and resolution process. I think Nicole, you just had a question pop up here. Maybe we'll take this one and then we'll move on to the next part of the presentation. Um, so Nicole, I think your question here is, will there be a reshaping of the objective of the project, or will everything related to the topic of biogenic carbon be within the scope? So yeah, I think we need to spend a little bit of time really defining and agreeing on the specific scope of the project. We do have, as Archana mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, there is a scope statement that was agreed to at the beginning. So we have to use that kind of as our guiding principle and guiding light. But we all need to understand what the specific scope of the work is, and my understanding is that it's biogenic carbon accounting in LCA across all different product sectors across a global perspective as well too. So it's I don't know if that means everything in the way that you're thinking of it, but it is a significantly broad scope from my understanding of the original project proposal. Harsh Meru, during the pilot, will you be explicitly naming methodological alignment between European and North American approaches to biogenic carbon accounting in LCA? So, yeah, Harsh, obviously we're going to take into consideration all of the different methodological approaches across different jurisdictions. But really, our intent here is to try to develop something that has a global sort of perspective and a global reach. Yeah, we need to be aware of everything that is being done in other jurisdictions, like the European and North American approach. But we have the liberty here to sort of specify something that is international, that we feel is internationally applicable. Archana, go ahead.
Thanks, Adam. I was just saying, let's move on to the next section because we have limited time and we have two more,
Okay.
segments that we need to follow.
Okay, thanks everybody for your questions and engagement. So in this section here of the presentation, what we have is we've invited several different speakers. We've identified other related initiatives that have components that are sort of associated with biogenic carbon accounting in LCA. And so we wanted to make sure that we are at least aware and considering all of these other related initiatives. And so all these initiatives that you see here are sort of initiatives that are ongoing, are under development, or relatively new. And so we've invited each of these experts to maybe give just a 5 minute verbal description and background of each of these initiatives and potentially how the content of those initiatives might influence or relate to the work that we are doing here at the UNEP on the Biogenic Carbon Project. So the first person that I'll call on is Susanna, as you can see from the list here. So do we have, we do have Susanna with us here.
Yes.
So yes, please go ahead, Susanna, and I'll keep an eye on the clock to try to keep you under 5 minutes. Thank you.
Yes, so hello everybody, and thank you for inviting me, Adam, and for the good work. You can hear me, right?
Yeah, we can hear you okay.
Super. So I am personally involved in the update of the EF recommendation of the EF methods. So I will talk a bit more about it, but I will also give you an update related. I think it's written wrong, Adam, but to the CRCF, the Carbon Removal Certification Framework of the European Commission. There are two different work streams. Anyway, the product environmental footprint, I guess you all know, is the recommended LCA-based method for products, and then we have another one for organization. And the official methods have been published in the Commission recommendation of 2021. And now we are currently updating the EF recommendation, including the biogenic carbon accounting in the next version of the EF recommendation. And the timing is that between January and February, actually, we're going to have a first draft of the updated recommendation. In March, there is a targeted stakeholder consultation on the topics that we suggest to update. And then in the second to third quarter, there is going to be a second draft of the EF recommendation and an inter-service consultation at the Commission level. And before the end of 2026, we should have the publication of the new EF recommendation. I will stop here in case there is any question, and then I will pass to the other legislative work. Okay. So the second one is actually the carbon removal certification framework. This is a totally different work that the Commission is performing. The overall goal is to have a high quality methodology for carbon removals to be sold in the voluntary carbon market. So DG Klima is actually the policy DG lead that is leading this work. They are working on different methodologies, and each methodology will be published in a delegated act. And there is going to be permanent carbon removal, and is the one that is the most advanced. And then there is carbon farming, including afforestation. And this is the one that is the draft delegated act will be produced soon. And then there is the third working stream that is related to the temporary carbon storage of wood products in buildings. The methodology is just part of this overall work because there is also quite a bit of work related to the verification and the certification, the auditing, and the registration in a Commission registry of these carbon removals before being sold. So both of these work streams have a bit different timing than the initiative, but they are both indirectly very relevant to it.
Thanks, Susanna. Appreciate that. And let's appreciate you keeping to your time as well. So we'll just go back to the last slide there, please, Jan, because we have other presenters that are going to come forward and give us a little bit of background on other initiatives. So the next one is the GHG Protocol land sector removals guidance. We have several members of the Technical Advisory Committee from this UNEP Biogenic Carbon Project that have been participating on this. And so Carolyn, Edie, and Annette, and I see Edie has volunteered to give a bit of a background on this. So please go ahead, Edie, and let us know about the developments here.
Yeah, good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. I drew the short straw today, so I will be giving you an update on the Greenhouse Gas Protocol land sector and removal guidance. So I just want to just put this in context. The Greenhouse Gas Protocol is an organizational reporting standard, and the intent is to report the greenhouse gas impact of a company's action in a given year in an inventory context. So that's divided into the scope 1, which are your direct emissions and removals, scope 2, electricity, and scope 3, upstream and downstream value chain emissions and removals. And as such, it's a combination of annual reporting and life cycle reporting. So it's actually not quite completely parallel to our project. However, there will be product LCAs, EPDs, carbon footprint results that would be needed for scope 3 reporting. The drafting of the land sector and removals guidance was initiated actually back in 2020 to provide a more detailed description on how biogenic carbon accounting should be considered in the context of these scopes within this inventory reporting. This process has been, the standard development process has been quite difficult, with many concerns raised and difficult reaching consensus, especially as it relates to the method for forest carbon accounting. But there's been a lot of issues grappling with how this should be done. And this is one of the key takeaways for this particular project is really understanding, even within the context of LCA, there's a lot of different types of methodologies, consequential, attributable, and as we're going through this project, making sure it's clear about what method is appropriate for what type of question that you're asking. Just as an update, actually this Friday, the land sector and removal guidance will be officially published. So 6 years in the making. It will be published, and we will find out which of their two proposed approaches to forest carbon accounting. We will find out which one has been approved. I have I There are a few of us who are part of the original technical working group, but there's actually been many iterations, so I can't give you any other insight on what that final process will be. And that's it.
Okay, wonderful, Edie. Appreciate that. So thank you. Everyone keep their eye out on Friday if you're interested in seeing what comes out of the GHG protocol. The next person that we have on the list here is Anna, and she's going to give us a little bit of a background and update on the Science-Based Targets Initiative. Anna, do we have you here? Okay, we do. Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Anna.
Thank you, Armin. So the Science-Based Target Initiative is a bit different. It's not exactly a life cycle assessment methodology. It's an initiative that provides guidance, sets criteria, namely they have their own net zero target, but basically it's a tool for companies to set climate targets. And what is special about these climate targets is that they are aligned with science and what which company needs to reduce the emission levels that are aligned with limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees. So that's the background what SBTI does. Of course, so to have a reduction target is very important to have a robust accounting of the CO2 emissions. And the basis for that is the corporate greenhouse gas protocol. So what Eddie just mentioned. So there's a generic protocol for accounting emissions at corporate level. In this greenhouse gas protocol, there are the emissions and the CO2 emissions are divided in different scopes for companies. So scope 1 are the direct emissions, which comprise emissions from energy and process emissions. Scope 2 are purchase energy, and scope 3 are all the indirect emissions. So all the purchase goods and services, transport, use of products, and so forth. So I think what is special about scope 1 is that for scope 1, when we have biogenic CO2 emissions, there is some unclarity there, which, well, I hope it will be improved with the land sector and removals guidance. And what is the unclarity, or maybe the challenges that I see in the methodology? So if you have bioenergy emissions, you can account removals and emissions, so they are neutral. But if you have biogenic emissions from process emissions, for example, from a fermentation process, then those emissions have to be accounted in the company scope 1 inventory. So that is a bit of one of the challenges. And I do expect that by having a harmonized approach, either through the GHG protocol or through the Biogenic UNEP project, that we can at least align on the methodologies and ensure the science behind it is achieved. So that is my summary about what is happening in the GHG protocol.
Wonderful.
And the science-based targets.
Thanks so much, Anna. Appreciate your participation. And the next one we have on the list here is Miriam. And so Miriam's going to talk about the BSI Flex work. Go ahead, Miriam.
Thanks, Adam. And thank you, everyone, and welcome. Thanks for giving me a few minutes to talk about the work we have done on the BSI Flex in the UK on quantifying greenhouse gas emissions and removals of BACs and DUCs projects. So I'm Miriam Roda from the Energy and Bioproducts Research Institute at Aston University, which is based in Birmingham. And we have been the technical authors for this Flex for the UK government that will be used in the future to quantify greenhouse gas emissions and removals from BECCS projects and DUCS projects, as these are the main technologies focused on at the moment through the UK government's greenhouse gas removal business models. The idea behind the Flex really is to have a consistent methodology which aligns with high integrity carbon removals for the UK, so that they can demonstrate the removals they will achieve, aligning with UK government ambitions around net zero. I think the key to point out here is that the focus of this Flex, where we were the technical authors on the bioenergy with carbon capture and storage part, is really focusing on carbon capture from biogenic sources at high concentration, and focusing on permanent storage of the CO2. So it's not including any utilization of the CO2. There was a really strong drive to align with the voluntary carbon market standards and have high integrity and high quality minimum thresholds for this approach. I think for what we are trying to achieve with phase 2 and thinking about the pilots, this could be an interesting document to look at, because what was considered and came out of the advisory groups was that this approach is taking a dynamic baseline, and which not necessarily is zeroed as in many other protocols and standards, so that there potentially could be already removals in an existing system compared to the new system. And that leakage was adopted following Article 6.4 to have upstream and downstream leakage in there with activity shifting, with market leakage and ecological leakage. And I'll leave it here. Happy to share the link to the flexes. And if anyone has questions on that, they can contact me. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Miriam. Appreciate the update. The next one we have on the list here is Andrew. And Andrew, if you wouldn't mind giving us a little update on the EN 16485 product category rules for wood products, the update process.
Hi, thanks, Adam. So yes, I'm going to report on the wood PCR, so the product category rules that you follow to produce an EPD on wood and wood-based products. Essentially, there's one section in the section 7.6.1, which is about the additional information on carbon offset, carbon storage and delayed emissions, and also an informative annex, Annex F. So a little bit of background first. Basically, we needed a simple method to display what the stored biogenic carbon and how that can actually create a benefit in a product. We obviously, there's an awful lot of things you can consider in such a thing. The effects of forestry, rotations, biomass, availability, substitution effects, etc., all extremely interesting and very important things, especially at national scales or maybe organizational scales, but were considered way too complex for what we needed to get across specifically to a user of a product. So just at a product level, just for simple information. So this is what the kind of remit was for what's in there. Obviously, we've heard why there's kind of interest now with things like CRCF and PEF levels, etc., or looking at kind of working out ways of displaying this and getting the benefit across. Obviously, better uses of biomass means more carbon storage, less in the atmosphere, and that's a good thing. We need something simple to display it. There was also a need to kind of separate just saying what the quantity of carbon stored is from what the effect of that storage is. So actually suggesting something in terms of GWP or something else, but also showing it separately to avoid the kind of confusion that sometimes happens with this kind of -1 +1 approach, saying that there was no benefit. We also wanted to get across that the benefit is obviously over time, not just one assumed number, and that's it, that's what it will produce. So essentially, the results are going to be displayed as a table because things like exact reference service lives and these sorts of things for products are extremely hard to kind of look at, especially if you consider just a plank of wood, maybe used in construction, maybe used in anything else. You've got no idea what it's going to be. And what method you use has far less effect than essentially guessing what the service life is. So that's why there's a display of different service life lengths. There's a lot of reiterations of this that's gone through some rounds. I'll give you an update of the status in a second, but basically, the way that we've done this to get something in there's been a lot of resistance, shall we say, from other industries, not really wanting to show any benefit. But essentially, there are a lot of other standards that we've quoted, mostly stemming from the ILCD handbook, which came out a long time ago, which essentially just simply provides a linear how to say discounting factor that you can add in there. So essentially 1% per year, the amount of carbon stored over your 100-year time frame. And so that's quoted from EN 18027 2025, which quotes the RCD handbook, and also there's examples provided in EN 16760 as well. So those are essentially quoted in there, so it's harder to refute. Also mentioned is the Lashoff method, which may not have been mentioned before in phase one, because it's been used by the French kind of procurement laws as a kind of national or regional method as well. All of this is as additional information. We're not showing it as a change in global warming potential or carbon footprint or anything like that. And essentially what's happened just very recently through various rounds of comments, etc., through working groups 350 and 375, it finally went out for voting, which ended last week. It was passed with 11 votes to 1, with some minor comments, which will be reviewed and sent out fairly soon. Obviously, EN 15804, which is the umbrella standard for producing EPDs, is to be reviewed soon, so it may or may not need re-updating to kind of match that, but at the moment it looks quite positive that will actually come out. I'm happy to kind of send out some of the text from the standard, so you don't need to buy it, but yeah, let me know.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Andrew. Appreciate that. And yeah, I'll give a very brief update. Myself and Annette, we've been working on the last two versions of the ISO 14067 carbon footprint of products over the last 10 years or more. And right now we're have just been tasked with leading an ad hoc group on biogenic emissions and removals. And so we're working with a group, an international group at the ISO level to develop different or updated information, guidance, and recommendations and requirements around biogenic carbon accounting in carbon footprint of products. So we're looking at things like delayed emissions and potential climate effects associated with delayed emissions and carbon storage in products. We're looking at aspects associated with land use and management of land, as well as direct land use change, indirect land use change. How are these subjects and topics addressed, and are they part of the carbon footprint, or are they outside of the carbon footprint? Are they additional information, as Andrew mentioned? So we're talking about all of those different aspects. We've also been now joined by the GHG Protocol, so they're now sort of a co-developer, co-leader of this project on carbon footprint of products, and so we're again sort of working towards how to best collaborate with their approaches as well. But this is under development at the moment anyways, and the expectation is that it will continue to develop for at least the next year or so, or longer. So we'll stop there with the other related issues. Let's go to the next slide, please, Jan. So there are some other Other initiatives that we had also earmarked that we thought might be relevant to the work we're doing, the Renewable Carbon Initiative, that some of you may be involved in, the Textile Exchange. They've developed a guideline on biogenic carbon emissions and removals in the textile industry. And then there's this group Built by Nature who's commissioned some work around biogenic carbon accounting and LCA over the last number of years. So we don't have anyone to present on these ones today, but potentially we might find somebody in the future. But if there are other initiatives, projects that are ongoing around the world that are related to biogenic carbon accounting in LCA, please let us know. We do have the goal of sort of trying to make a compilation of all this information and making sure that everyone who's participating in the development of phase 2 is at least aware of some of these other initiatives that are ongoing, so they can explore them and think about how that may impact or influence the work that we're doing here at the UNEP Biogenic Carbon Project. Next slide, please. So briefly, over the next 2 slides, I just wanted to talk about some of the sort of the technical areas that were discussed in the phase 1 of the project. So there's much more information on these aspects in the phase 1 progress report that you will be receiving, so you can review and read that in more detail. Excuse me, but really, the phase 1 progress report is trying to sort of put together all of the discussions and the outcomes that took place between March and November of 2024. And during the time, we had 4 rounds of meetings across the 4 working groups, and as well as 2 workshops to discuss and brainstorm and think about all the different aspects associated with biogenic carbon accounting and LCA. And we really tried to put them together in this phase 1 progress report. So working group 4 is the one that I was co-convening, and it is dealing with existing standards and methodologies. So again, what we tried to do is map all these existing standards. What are the common commonalities between the standards? How do they diverge? As well as mapping their approaches across all of the different subjects and topics that were being discussed by the working groups. So working group 1 was responsible for the temporal aspects. So we talked about life cycle inventory, static inventory for biogenic emissions and removals, dynamic inventories for biogenic emissions and removals. We talked about reference points in time as to when GHG removals were actually happening, and how do we include that within a life cycle assessment study, as well as different types of climate change impact assessment methods, static impact assessment methods, dynamic impact assessment methods. Next slide, please. Within working group 2, as Yuki mentioned earlier, he was leading this discussion, co-convening this discussion on end-of-life reuse and recycling. And so within this group, they talked about different approaches for attributional LCA studies, cutoff approach, circular footprint formula, closed loop approximation, and allocation at point of substitution. So again, there's more details and description on each of these within the phase 1 progress report. There wasn't a lot of content and discussion around consequential approaches for end-of-life reuse and recycling. And within working group 3, they were tasked with looking at system boundaries. And so there was discussion in this group around how to treat biogenic carbon flows within cradle to gate studies. So when we're not looking at the whole life cycle, just looking at a portion of the life cycle. System boundaries associated with land use and management of land, as well as land use change effects. How do we account for these types of biogenic carbon pools and fluxes and emissions and removals, and how do we integrate that information within an LCA study? And as well, they talked a little bit about allocation from a land base, so different types of allocation approaches when you have multiple bio-based products that are originating from a single land base, as well as tracking biogenic carbon content of products across different allocation approaches as well too. There was discussion about system expansion and the use of counterfactuals or reference scenarios or baseline scenarios. And there was some discussion around benefits and loads beyond the system boundary, something similar to the concept of Module D, and whether or not this how this information could be integrated or included or as additional information to a study. So we'll go to the next slide, please. So as sort of a very first, I've gone through and made a very first review of all those 600 comments that were received on the phase one progress report, and I've tried to sort of categorize different areas or subjects, topics that came up in those comments. So here's a list of some of the topics that were brought up by commenters during the phase one. Organization of the document, the scope, the introduction, clearly stating the scope of the document, differentiating between types of LCA studies, different goals and scopes of the studies, if different impact assessment methods, how to deal with biogenic carbon storage in products, how to calculate and include land use effects, management of land effects, how to deal with land use change, and as well end of life discussions and different approaches for end of life in bio-based products. So again, there will be more information in the summary document. But these are just sort of the overarching areas that came out of those comments that were received for phase one. Next. As well, in phase one, we took some time to develop sort of what was called desirable characteristics. I think of them more as guiding principles for the development of the recommendations and guidance documents. So there were 8 different guiding principles that we came up with, and really these are intended to help us sort of frame the phase two of the project and help us to understand what we're tasked with and how we might sort of frame the guidance and the recommendations that we're going to develop. So I'm not going to read them all to you now, but there's these 8 recommendations. So next slide, please. You can read them there in the phase one progress report, and we'll circulate them with the slides as well too. Next slide, please. Yeah. So this is the last slide for today, and then we'll pause after this to take any questions, realizing we only have about 10 minutes left, being respectful of everyone's time and their day. So just to summarize all of the next steps for yourselves as stakeholders and participants in the project, what should you expect to receive, and what should you expect to be tasked with to do over the next period of time in the project if you want to participate and interact with the project. So during the next month, there are several informational documents that you're going to receive. So you're going to receive this phase 2 project information document, and that document is going to include things like the timeline and the schedule that we talked about earlier. It's going to include description of the consensus building process. What is the comment submission process? How are we going to determine consensus? How are we going to resolve comments that are being received? As well, you'll receive the comment submission template. And so all of the comments are required to be submitted on this same template. And you're also going to receive an overview document of the pilot testing. So it's really just a one-page summary of the pilot testing, and it's meant to sort of solicit interest from organizations to participate in the project and participate in the pilot testing. So you can feel free to sort of circulate this pilot testing overview to anyone in your network who you think would be interested in participating as a pilot tester. As well, you're going to receive the phase one progress report, so the final version of the phase one progress report, and you're going to receive a summary of the comments from the phase one project as well too. And then sort of later next month, you're going to receive the working draft one, which is this skeleton outline of the different sections and potentially the content within those sections for the recommendations and guidance document. And then the expectation is that you can review that working draft one and you can provide comments and direction that we will discuss together as a group and resolve and move forward to the next version of the working draft. So that you'll have about a window of 2 to 3 weeks to review this working draft one once it comes out, and then provide your written comments and written feedback on the commenting template. And then we'll schedule some virtual meetings in late March, early in April to discuss all the comments that were received. So I'm gonna stop there for now. We have about 7 minutes left. So the last point here was, feel free to reach out to Archana or myself. If you have additional questions or clarifications about the project, if you are interested in participating as a pilot tester as well too, please reach out to us and get in touch. So I'll pause there. I'll stop there for now. We'll open the floor for open discussion and questions for the last 6 minutes here, and then we'll try to close it off on time. Thanks. So Javier, I think you had a question. How do you participate in the pilot testing? Please feel free to send Archana and myself an email, and we'll put your organization down. We'll get some more information from you about what is the type of LCA studies that you're working on, what is the product sector and industry sector that you're involved with, your geographic location, things like that. We're trying to collect all this information from pilot testers in order to have a understanding of the sort of the diversity of the different organizations that we have interested in pilot testing. Iris, you mentioned a good point there. I think EN 18027, which is a new European standard that was just published, I think, last year. So this is a good point, and it would be helpful to understand a little bit more about some of the content in this EN 18027 and how it might relate to the work that we're doing here. So I'll make a note of that and maybe reach out to you personally to have a further conversation, and if it makes sense to have you give a little presentation to this group at a later point in time. The expression of interest form, I just see that Tad had put that link up. So please make sure that if that you've even if you were involved in phase one of the project, we do still have your contact information, and we've transferred that over to the phase two of the project. But if you wouldn't mind inputting the information into the phase two expression of interest form as well, on this link that Tad has put up, and also that I think Archana sent around. It's just going to be helpful for us to ensure that we have all the right contact information for everyone involved in the phase two, and we have the right industry sector and organizations and geographic regions for everyone as well too. So take a little bit of time to just fill that form out when you get a chance. ISO 13391 series. Yeah, no, thanks for that. We did take a little bit of a look at that during the last phase 1 of the project. So we've have some experts that were participating in working group 4 that were involved in the ISO 13391 development process. So yeah, it is definitely has some aspects in there that are related to some of the conversations we're having here in the Biogenic Carbon Project. So yeah, we're aware of that. Thank you. Archana, you have any closing words there?
Thanks, Adam, and thanks everyone for participating. And as Adam mentioned, you will be hearing from us very soon with all the documentation that was mentioned, and we look forward to your participation. If you have any questions, if you have any ideas, suggestions for us, you have our email. Please do write to us, and we'll take it forward from there. Also, please feel free to share this expression of interest form with anyone in your network who you think is an expert and is working in this space, so that we engage with as many people from different sectors. As you know, I mean, the phase 1, we can already see there is some skewed representation from specific sectors as well as from specific regions. And given the fact that this is a UN-led initiative, we would like to have as many different sectors as relevant as represented, as well as different regions, different constituencies engaging in the discussion. I know the project had taken a long pause last year, but we will be advancing from here, and you will hear from us very soon with the documents and the next steps. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today.